present in person, joining online and watching online this evening. The time being 6:30, I declare the ordinary council meeting of 10 December 2024 open. Persons in the gallery are advised that under the Local Government Act 1993, a person may not tape record the proceeding of a meeting of a council or committee without the authority of the council or committee. Tape record includes a video camera and an electronic device capable of recording speech. Mobile phones must be turned off so as not to disrupt the meeting. Anyone, including councillors, found using a mobile phone will be asked to leave the meeting immediately and for the duration of the meeting. An audio recording of this meeting will be taken for minute-taking purposes as authorised by the Local Government Act 1993. This meeting is live streamed on Council's website to allow the community to follow Council debates and decisions without the need to attend meetings in person. Members of the public attending or speaking at a meeting agree to have their image, voice and personal information, including name and address, recorded and publicly broadcast. Strathfield Council does not accept liability for any defamatory remarks or inappropriate comments that are made during the course of a meeting. Any part of the meeting that is held in closed session will not be streamed. Councillors and members of the gallery, please note that the microphone for streaming purposes is sensitive and will record all sounds in the room. The mayoral diary from the 27th of November 2024, including up to the 10th of December 24, and expenses claimed by all councillors has been tabled for your information as per Resolution 14719. Councillors, in accordance with the mandatory provisions of the Model Code of Conduct, I remind councillors of the obligation that you will faithfully and impartially carry out the functions, powers, authorities and discretions vested under the Local Government Act 1993 or any other act to the best of your ability and judgment. I would now like to ask everyone who is able to stand for the moment of reflection.
Excuse me, Chair, but I can't.
Granted. We pray that our deliberations today will be objective and decisions are impartial and made for the benefit of the whole community. Let us begin by acknowledging the Wongal people, the traditional custodians of the land on which this meeting is being held. We pay respects to elders past, present and emerging. Thank you. You can now all resume your seats. There being no apologies, I will move on to leave of absence. Are there any councillors seeking a leave of absence? There being no applications, I'll move on. Disclosures of interest. Does any councillor wish to make a disclosure of interest? I request that each councillor with a conflict stand, clearly state the item, the nature of the conflict and what action they will take. Councillors, in reading out your conflicts, please follow the templates as provided. There being no disclosures, we will move on. Acknowledgements. Councillor Reddy.
Welcome, councillors. I would like to, this is the last council meeting for this year. I would like to thank our team and general manager and all the directors for supporting us, and we'll be coming back and better behaved next year. And councillors, we did a good job. We all came back re-elected, newly elected. We are starting to work. I hope we all can work better, and I would personally like to acknowledge Karen Pennsylvania. Really glad to see you back and want to see you more. Thank you.
Councillor Kim. Councillor Reddy. Councillor Kim, acknowledgement.
I want to acknowledge the Matt Jones and his colleague, veterans, who came to International Day with Disabled People with our Navy ship, Hansandu at our Korean Community Center, and very kind and hospitality for all disabled people. Thank you.
Councillor's acknowledgements. Councillor Blackmore.
Just a quick acknowledgement just to the Burwood Strathfield Lions Club, just at Christmas time, and the work that they do in the community. And just as it's Christmas, I've actually got the Lions Club's fruitcakes that they normally sell at the Christmas party, just to hand out to all the councillors in our gallery and the staff as well. if I don't...
Thank you, Councillor Blackmore. While that's happening, Councillor Nosworthy.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to acknowledge the 3rd International Silapathakari celebration. It's a celebration of Tamil culture and Tamil language, and I was honoured to present a number of awards for school students who did a speech competition in the Tamil language.
Councillor, further acknowledgements? Councillors? Okay, I would like to make an acknowledgement to Chalmers Road School for their end of year celebration, which occurred on the International Day of People with Disability, and congratulate their new school captains on their election, and wish them well in the year ahead. I'd also like to acknowledge the Probus Club of Homebush for their Christmas event, which I attended, and thank them for their work in our community, particularly looking after those retired and semi-retired citizens of Homebush. Thank you, councillors. Mayoral minutes. 7.1, Mayoral minute 1224, new minimum parking.
Chair.
Councillor?
Point of order, Chair. In the Code of Meeting Practice, 29.
Taken, councillor. Thank you. Confirmation of minutes. We'll first confirm the ordinary council meeting minutes from the 26th of November 2024.
Sorry?
What are you after, councillor?
Not an urgent.
Okay, I'll allow.
Okay, so in the Code of Meeting Practice, only urgent matters of interest are to be put as a mayoral minute, and I've read both the mayoral minutes, and I don't think that they seem to be urgent. So they could be left until the beginning of next year.
Thank you, councillor, for the comment. Would you like to move that they be...
Yes, can I move that they be moved to next year's February meeting?
Would someone like to second? Councillor Nosworthy. Would you like to speak to the point? Councillors? No?
No.
Okay.
Just following the Code of Meeting Practice.
Thank you, councillor. That being the case, we will... I'll speak against and say that I think both are of great value to the community and importance, and I encourage my fellow councillors to keep them in their rightful place at the beginning of the meeting as key matters. Councillor Nosworthy, you've suspended your time, or... I'm speaking for. Would you like to speak against, councillor?
Oh, thank you. Mr. Mayor, it's not a matter of value, it's a matter of if it's urgent. If it's urgent, it can be considered without proper prior notice. If it's not urgent, it cannot, according to the Code of Meeting Practice.
Thank you, councillor. And urgency will be determined by the council, so I'm going to put it to a vote. All those in favour of the mayoral minutes remaining in their place as per the agenda, all those in favour, please raise your hand. Councillors Kim, Bellardi, Reddy and Kai. All those against? Councillors Blackmore, Pensabene and Nosworthy. I declare the motion carried. So moving to... Yep, so we'll confirm the minutes of the previous meeting. Can I have a mover to move the ordinary council meeting 26th of November 2024's minutes? Councillor Reddy, I'll second. Can I have anyone speak for or against the motion? No, councillors? Excellent. That being the case, all those in favour, please raise your hand. Carried unanimously. Thank you, councillors. Now to the mayoral minutes. 7.1, mayoral minute 1224, new minimum parking requirements for developments. I move that council provides a report on amending the Strathfield Consolidated Development Control Plan to require that all residential developments, including apartments, units and townhouses, provide a minimum of two off-street parking spaces per dwelling unit. The Strathfield 2024 Local Strategic Planning Statement emphasises the importance of sustainable growth while maintaining the quality of life for residents. A significant concern among the community is the increasing pressure on on-street parking due to higher density developments. Current policies, such as the residential parking scheme, permit up to 2 free permits for single dwellings, but restrict multi-dwelling units to a maximum of 1 permit per dwelling. The discrepancy often leads to insufficient parking for residents of multi-dwelling units, which results in congestion and competition for limited on-street parking spaces. Councillors, does anyone wish to speak for or against the motion? Councillor Nosworthy.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I am concerned this will lead to high congestion, inviting more residents to park in the new residence being constructed. Will bring more cars. One of the number one pieces of feedback we get about our area is our transport links. Those transport links can be accessed without a car, which is one of the top reasons people move to our area. We are in the process of building in new transport links, obviously with the metro on its way and potentially the movement and place coming up later on our agenda. So I think it would be misguided, unfortunately, to add parking when in a lot of other major cities and in the state government's planning, we're trying to reduce congestion and not increase congestion by inviting more cars into our area.
Councillor, Councillor Blackmore, for or against? Sorry.
For.
Go ahead.
Look, I do understand Councillor Nosworthy's points that he's making, but I don't think that it is, I actually do support this because I don't think it is a solution to restrict parking will then force people to not buy cars. I'm looking forward to the report. I think probably there's 2 off-street parking. Probably there is some scope for maybe for 3-bedroom and 2 bedrooms to have off-street parking and a 1-bedroom maybe for 1 or something along those lines. But obviously there is a report that will come back, which I think we can obviously as a council take a look at. But I think providing, although people may catch public transport during their working hours, I think a lot of people do have vehicles that sit at home and are used on the weekend or on days off. So I think having those cars parked underground, underneath buildings instead of on streets is a much better outcome for our community.
Thank you, Councillor. And I second what you've said there. I think that this fantasy that fewer parking spots in residential buildings will lead to people with no cars moving in or fewer vehicles is not quite in tune with reality, and I think it's quite ideological to suggest otherwise. Councillors, would anyone else like to speak for or against the motion? I now put the motion to the vote. All those in favour, please raise your hand. Councillors Kim, Reddy, Kai, Bellardi and Blackmore. All those against. Councillors Pensabene and Nosworthy. I declare the motion carried. 7.2, Mayoral Minute 13/24, Mayor's Community Advisory Group. I move that the Council establish a Mayor's Community Advisory Group to support the Mayor in their role. Meetings will occur monthly or as required and will discuss matters impacting the local community. The group will consist of active community members selected by the Mayor, whose membership will endure for a term as determined by the Mayor. The purpose of the Mayor's Community Advisory Group will be to provide constructive feedback to the Mayor about all Council action, inaction, activities, events and otherwise, to always ensure Council acts per community expectations and is not void of valuable input. Councillors, would anyone like to speak for or against the motion? Councillor Blackmore.
Look, I will speak for the motion, but I will point out there is a point there, Mr Mayor, and I don't know whether you're open to an amendment on it, but it says whose membership will endure for a term as determined by the Mayor. There is legislation in the Local Government Act which actually dictates that a mayoral term is 2 years. So I would suspect that it could be a 2-year term as for this working group, and then when there's a new mayoral vote that they possibly, whether they want to keep the old people or want to have new people in the new 2-year term, that they could decide, the new mayor, or if it's the same mayor, could decide whether that group stays or goes. So would you be open to amendments such as
I am open to amendment. I think wording might be tricky. That's the intention of the sentence as written, but happy for it to be clarified. Thank you, Councillor. The group will consist of active community members selected by the Mayor, whose membership will endure for a term as determined by the Mayor of the day. Councillor Nosworthy?
Perhaps as determined by the Mayor, not greater than 2 years? Would that?
But it could be the case that a Mayor appoints them before they go, and then... so I'm trying to avoid term definitions as 1 or 2 years, etc., and rather the Mayor can pick and choose people to add to this or remove from this group as they please. All that, Councillor? All that?
Sorry,
Councillor?
how many people in this advisory committee, Mr Mayor?
I think it's probably fair that it's unlimited.
Unlimited?
Well, I mean, we could invite all of Strathfield to join. We could. I think it's not necessary for it to have a limit to its size. Do you believe so?
Oh, I do.
Thank you, Councillor.
I don't
Councillor
believe
Nosworthy?
I'm against it.
Yeah, similar to Councillor Pensabene in terms of how many members will be part of the group. I just worry that the motion as it stands lacks a bit of detail, the mayoral minute. So perhaps additions of how often they'll meet, numbers if you'd like that, that type of thing. So perhaps I'd suggest a monthly meeting. You'd be happy to accept that amendment?
No, rejected. Thank you, councillor. I'll just move back to councillor Blackmore's suggestion for an amendment. Return was determined by the mayor.
Monthly meeting, he's going to do with streets.
Determined by the mayor of the... Councillor Pinsabene, do you have something to say to the council or anything?
Councillor.
Just leave it as is. I think it achieves what councillor Blackmore is suggesting. Just later on. If we...
Yeah, how many councillors on the advisory?
Aligning. Just to the director, to Mr. McQuaid, if we could add comma after by the mayor, comma, aligning with the mayoral term. Thank you. Councillors, I put the motion to the vote. All those in favour, please raise your hand. Councillors, I put the motion to the vote. All those in favour, please raise your hand.
Point of order, Mr. Mayor. I'm not sure we'd completed the debate section of the...
We've had speakers for and against. The debate is over. Thank you, councillor. We're in the process of the vote. All those in favour, please raise your hand. Councillors Blackmore, Reddy, Kim, Kai and Bellardi. All those against, councillors Nosworthy and Pinsabene. I declare the motion carried. Items by exception. In accordance with section 13 of Council's Code of Meeting Practice, items can be dealt with by exception and they can be adopted as recommended by a single motion. I note the following items cannot be dealt with by exception. EO7, Strathfield Plaza. So we'll go through the matrix and I will clearly name each of the agenda items. Please, councillors, just raise your hand or call out if you would like it taken out for debate.
Sandy.
Bear with me.
Smoking thing have any language.
Councillors, 10.1. Councillors, 10.1. 10.2. 10.3. 10.4. 10.5, taken out. 10.6, taken out. 10.7. 10.7. 10.8,
Take out, please.
out. 10, thank you, councillor. 10.9,
Take out.
take it out, okay.
10.7.
10.9.
It is being left in. Would you like it removed, councillor? No? Okay. GMU 1, GMU 2, CCS 1.
Sorry, Mr. Mayor. GMU2, I believe. What page is it?
No, councillor, I know what you're thinking about, and it's a different one. Oh, okay. CCS 1. He thought it was this one. Yeah. CCS 2. CCS 3. CCS 4. CCS 5. CCS 6. And CCS 7. We'll take it out, councillor Nosworthy.
Alternate meeting date?
It's just because it's right here.
It's on the Easter long weekend, I believe. Well, the agenda item is to allow council to change. Yes. Yep, you sure? Alright. Sorry, what was that, councillor? Ready? PE1, PE2, take it out, PE3, PE4, PE5, PE6,
Out, please, Mr. Mayor.
P6, yep. P7, EO1, EO2, which one, sorry?
EO2.
EO2, yep. EO3, sorry, yep, EO3, out. EO4, yep,
EO3, yeah.
correct. EO4, 12.1. This is now the confidential items EO5, EO6, and EO7 we have to take out.
Are we taking those out or are we keeping those in?
No, we're just taking out EO7, we have to. Thank you, councillors. We will. Councillor Blackmore, are you taking out EO2?
Yes.
Okay, allow.
EO2? Yes.
All right, thank you, councillors, for that. I'll get rid of the matrix.
Should I tell them to go? I was going to see which one.
All right, I move that the item as mentioned will be dealt by exception. Councillor Reddy, Councillor Bensabene, to move and second. I now put the motion to a vote. All those in favour, please raise your hand. Carried unanimously. Public forum. We now have 3 speakers registered today to address the meeting. Speakers are reminded that they have 3 minutes to address the council on their item of interest with a possible 2-minute extension if approved by the meeting. Speakers are advised that in accordance with the Code of Meeting Practice, they cannot ask questions of council, councillors or staff. A councillor, through the chair, may ask questions of the speaker as long as it is direct, succinct and without argument. First we have Ms. Anne Sullivan, who has requested to speak in open forum about proposed cessation of Councillors Connector bus service. Would Ms. Sullivan please come forward to address the meeting?
As a resident of Corelli Avenue, I and my fellow residents are very concerned about the proposed withdrawal of the Connector bus service. The area's seen a lot of development in the last 5 to 10 years and has had a huge population increase. And the bus service that we currently have was commenced several years ago when a need for it was identified by councillors. Most people who live down the Corelli Avenue part of the Homebush West have to walk at least 10 to 15 minutes to the nearest transport, which is Flemington Station, and it's up a hill, and the footpath is uneven, and it's quite hazardous for elderly and disabled residents. Students use the bus to go to school, and I feel it is very dangerous for students to have to walk to schools in Homebush West area, because there are no traffic lights and there are inadequate pedestrian crossings. And also, as students are walking on their own to school, it exposes them to what we call stranger danger. And I would suggest that the bus should not be ceased without an alternative in place. And the connector buses are ideal due to the narrowness of many of the streets. So if people are proposing an alternative of the government buses, they will not go down the streets down in the area where I live. And also, I feel for the bus drivers who are going to be without a job as well. And finally, I have had many residents in my area say to me that if you go to cease the bus, they would like a reduction in their rates.
Thank you, Ms. Sullivan. Council will take that into consideration. Second up, we have Mr. Henry Yeo, who has requested to speak in open forum about the same topic. Would Mr. Yeo please come forward to address the meeting?
Good evening. I am a 16-year-old student at Homebush Boys High School. My family and I live at Corelli Avenue, and I use the Strathfield Connector bus daily to get to and from school. I started using the bus after I was nearly hit by a car walking to school. Our area is almost residential, with apartments usually only having 1 car parking space and with the narrow streets. Parking is difficult if a household has more than one car. Population will increase in that area with new apartment buildings under construction. The connector bus is a good arrangement, helping mothers get their kids to school safely each day and allows the elderly to do their shopping and appointments. We have found the drivers of the bus friendly and kind. This community service is deeply loved, but it is said that this service may be cancelled next year. My family and I strongly oppose that. If funding the bus is the problem, property owners could be asked to increase their gratuity rates and fees. Reasonable increases would still be accepted and understood. I strongly urge Council to focus on this densely populated apartment area and continue to allow the connector bus to operate, which will make everyone happy with a convenient and safe service. And our area at the 8:20, at the time 8:20, it's almost full. And sometimes they have to tell us to get off the bus because it's full. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Yeo. Council will take that into consideration. Mr. Andrew Soulos has requested to speak in open forum about PE2, outcome of community engagement, Homebush movement and place connectivity and streetscape upgrade project. Would Mr. Soulos please come forward to address the meeting?
I'd like to address the meeting before the item, like I requested. Is that all right?
No, you got to do other four.
Open forum? Yeah. Is that procedure or? Okay. All right. Agenda item P2, the Mobility Access Plan. Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Deputy Mayor, Councillors Blackmore, Kim, Osworthy, Pensabene and Reddy. I speak as President of Strathfield Independence. Thank you for providing me the opportunity to speak on agenda item PE2 in relation to the outcome of community engagement, Homebush movement and place connectivity and streetscape upgrade project. As you know, I was a councillor from 2012 to 2017, and in 2014, the active transport plan was conceived. At that time, the removal of parking lanes, the spaces, was not contemplated. The fight against amalgamation was put foremost in the minds of the majority of councillors. I mention the amalgamation fight because it cost a lot, but not as much as the construction of these bike lanes, let alone the cost of the loss of parking spaces. Another parallel with the amalgamation fight was the community opposition for this state government supported initiative. There was around 70% opposition to amalgamation. Judging by the report, there is around 59% opposition to these bike lanes. The last parallel is the public sensitivity of this issue. It has the potential to bog down council if it is not handled properly. I think council owes it to the community to resolve either of the following motions. Number one, alternate motion. Item 1, same as what's in your business papers. Note the consideration of the outcomes of the community consultation for the Homebush movement and place connectivity and streetscape upgrade project. Item 2, council not proceed with the Homebush mobility access plan. And then alternate motion 2, again, item 1, same as what you've got there in your business papers. Note the consideration of the outcomes of the community consultation for the Homebush movement and place connectivity and the streetscape upgrade project. 2, postpone all preparatory work for the Homebush movement and place connectivity and streetscape upgrade, which involves removal of parking lanes in streets with greater than 34%, that is more than one-third total occupancy, barring receiving current feedback. 3, conduct 2 workshops concerning the movement, Homebush movement and place connectivity and streetscape upgrade to consider feedback so far and the delivery of cycle path infrastructure without impacting motorists. This is from my calculations, around $7.2 million you're going to invest into this.
Sorry,
Needs to be taken. Oh, sorry.
I'll just extend your time. No, I'll just extend your time, or I'll put that the time be extended. Councillors? Thank you, Mr. Soulos. Continue, please. 2 minutes, though.
Thank you. 4, investigate permeable surfaces suitable for cycling, which are aesthetically pleasing. 5, pursue replacement of verges with suitable permeable surfaces on paths outlined in active transport planning, leaving roads for cars and prioritising footpaths for pedestrians. And 6, consider access from Bay Street to Olympic Park via the soon-to-be widened Bridge Street and M4 pedestrian bridges. They're outlined in other plans you have. And Pomeroy Street. This is the traditional route taken by cyclists going from bay to bay. Thank you. Does anyone want a copy of this?
Yeah, we'll have a copy.
Thank you, Mr. Soulos.
Thanks.
Councillor Pensabeni, would you like to maybe pass those around from where you are? Thank you, Mr. Soulos. Council will take that into consideration. Councillor Nosworthy. Sorry. Mike, it's okay. All right. Thank you. Thank you very much. All right, now to the notices of motion, councillors. We'll continue. 10.1, Councillor Reddy, you have moved. Sorry, we've already gone to that. We'll go to 10.5. Councillor Blackmore, you've moved this motion. Is there a seconder? Councillor Reddy. Councillor, would you like to speak for your motion?
I move the motion as written, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Reddy, you're the seconder. Would you like to speak to the motion?
You can't speak.
You can speak to a rescission, councillor.
Can't speak on a rescission.
You can speak to a rescission.
Should we check with government?
We'll ask a question of the director. Can a rescission be spoken to?
Through the chair,
Thank
I'll
you.
hand that over to the manager governance. I believe she's provided advice on that recently.
Thank you.
Yes, through you, Chair. The Code of Meeting Practice allows a rescission motion discussion is treated as any other motion, so once it's voted on, it can be debated.
Thank you very much. Councillor Reddy, would you like to speak to the motion for or against? Thank you.
It's an amendment.
Thank you. An amendment? Yep. So you're not seconding the motion?
I am seconding.
Seconding, and you're putting an amendment. Thank you.
We're not voting on the rescission, then voting. And then we discuss the alternate motion.
Okay, thank you. All right, so councillors, just to clarify, we'll first not speak for or against the rescission itself. So we can speak for in favour or against it. Following that vote for the rescission, we will then consider separately the alternate motion, at which point an amendment can be put. So no amendments at this stage. We'll first consider the rescission and then go to the alternate motion, at which point we can consider an amendment to it. Councillor Blackmore's put it. Councillor Sandy Reddy has seconded. Would you like to speak for or against? No. That being the case, I'm happy to move the motion as the rescission as is. Councillors, all those in favour, please raise your hand. In favour of the rescission.
What is this one now?
In favour of the rescission, Councillors Pensabene, Nosworthy, Blackmore and Bellardi, Reddy and Kai and Kim. That being the case, the rescission is moved.
Is that a gavel?
It is. Councillors, now we will consider the alternate. We'll consider the alternate, which I'm happy to put an amendment towards. The amendment being that Councillor confirm Ismay Reserve as the only suitable location for the monument. Councillor Blackmore, do you accept the amendment? Is there a seconder for my amendment? Councillor Kim.
Explain.
Can I just a point of order?
Stand up and explain.
Just a point of order, Mr. Mayor,
Councillor?
or a question through the chair. If somebody lives within close vicinity of a park or reserve, would there be any conflict of interest of putting a monument which concerns their community near their house?
Thank you, Councillor. To the Director.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I would anticipate through the code of conduct that would present a potential conflict of interest, and that, depending how close the person lived and the impact that would have on things like holdings that they may have personally or their relationships in the community.
Thank you. Councillor Kim? Speaking for or against?
As a Korean community, and Gapyeong Monument is especially very memorable and historical battle and monument. I have checked many places like the Square and Hudson Park and Ismay Park. Hudson Park is very nice, wide, and well-maintained park at the moment. But this is at the edge of the Strasbourg Council, very far. I try to hold many events in the Hudson Park. Nobody wanted, our community, nobody wanted. And Ismay Park is many people, and this is a lonely park. Not so many people visit there. I visited many times to check, not so many people there. But Ismay Park, so many people come and visit, they take exercise, and in future we're going to have bridge over the creek, and from Ali and there, so many people will come there. Because this is historical for Australia and Korea, Australian children also want to remember all the children, remember the historical dedication, Australian soldiers' dedication and their sacrifice. More people to see this one, I want to. So this is Ismay Park is most of the place to remember all the children and the descendants of the Australians, remember the sacrifice and dedication of Australian soldiers who did good job in Korea. Now Korea developed. From 1950, our Korean War, after Korean War, because of all the sacrifice of UN troops and Australia, we now developed country. So I really insist on the Ismay Park is better place for any other reason. More people visit Ismay Park and more people can remember. Please consider this one. Okay?
Thank you, Councillor Kim. Any other councillors wishing to speak for or against the motion?
Sorry, I'm going to foreshadow an amendment to that one, and I will point out to Councillor Kim that Ismay Reserve is also on the boundary of our LGA. If we've got a map downstairs, if someone can provide her a copy of that, our council boundaries. I'll put an foreshadowed alternative that the Korean monument be installed, if you want it in the face of everyone, be installed in Strathfield Town Centre as part of the Strathfield Town Centre Master Plan.
Thank you, Councillor. I'm going to put the motion, or the alternate motion, to a vote. All those councillors in favour of the... This is, just to clarify, councillors,
So this is just a report. This is just a report.
councillors, would anyone else like to speak for or against the motion? Councillors,
Sorry, Mr. Mayor, I'm just trying to get... We're discussing the alternate motion? Is that correct?
we're still discussing the alternate motion, not the foreshadowed motion.
Okay.
Councillors, we're now discussing the alternate motion. Would anyone else like to speak for or against the alternate motion, moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Kim, as it reads on the screen?
Can I talk to more?
No, Councillor.
I think we should...
There being no further speakers for or against,
Mr. Mayor.
councillors,
Mr. Mayor.
councillors, point of order, you will address... Councillors.
We should allow Councillor...
Councillor, that is out of order. Thank you very much. We'll put the motion to a vote. The alternate motion will now be voted on. Councillors in favour of the motion, please raise your hand. Councillors in favour of the motion, please raise your hand.
Sorry, just...
Conflict of interest and...
Councillor Reddy, Councillor Kim will declare her own conflict of interest if she believes so.
Interest?
Councillor Kim, Councillor Kim, councillors, order, councillors. Putting the motion to a vote. All those in favour, please raise your hand. Councillors Kim, Reddy, Kai and Bellardi.
Sorry, Mr. Mayor.
Councillors,
Can I just confirm?
councillors, we're in the middle of a vote.
We don't know what we're voting for or not voting for.
We're just confirming.
Councillors, I will remind councillors that they will speak when acknowledged by the chairperson, not amongst themselves in the middle of debate and questions. Councillor, please sit down.
Through the chair, I just
Councillor,
want to...
please sit down.
Can I get a confirmation? We're voting on Ismay Reserve or we're voting on Stratford Town Centre?
Councillor, if you were to listen to what I was just explaining,
I've asked-
I have been saying it
Mr.
while
Mayor.
you're bickering with those around you.
Apologies, Mr.
So,
Mayor.
councillor,
Can I just get that
point of order, councillor.
Can I just get
You're
that
speaking over the chair. And I won't hesitate to remove you if need be.
With your gavel.
Gavel's not aware.
Councillors, when the chair is trying to explain and clarify what is being voted upon, I expect councillors to listen and understand and not ask the same questions a moment later when they were talking amongst themselves. We are now voting, as I've stated multiple times, on the alternate motion that I've moved, seconded by Councillor Kim, which states that council confirm Ismay Reserve as the only suitable location for the monument. Councillors, all those in favour, please raise your hand. Councillors Kim, Reddy, Kai and Bellardi, all those against, raise a hand. Councillors Pensabene, Nosworthy and Blackmore. I declare the motion carried. The alternate motion is adopted. And the foreshadowed motion falls. Back to the notices of motion. 10.6. Councillor Blackmore, you've moved this motion. Is there a seconder? There being no seconder, the motion falls. 10.7. Sorry, councillors. 10.8. Councillor Nosworthy, you have moved this motion. Is there a seconder? Councillor Pensabene. Councillor Nosworthy, would you like to speak for your motion?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. So obviously this is in relation to public transport. Obviously with the intended cessation of the Strathfield Connector bus, as we saw from our speakers, it will cause some lack of transport in the area. I've noted the area between Underwood Road and Brittany Avenue. Mr. Mayor, this is the second time now I've brought a motion to council to try and find a solution to that area. Unfortunately, that area is underserved by public transport and is likely to be less served by public transport in the future. And I noticed that recently in a public forum you accused the state government, let me just check my notes to get the wording exactly right, I'd hate to misquote you. The failing government. Now, Mr. Mayor, have you communicated with this government about the transport gap that exists? Because my understanding is the answer to that is in the negative.
That's incorrect. Continue, councillor.
Mr. Mayor, I've passed two motions, as previously mentioned, on this issue. It seems I'm the only one in this chamber passing motions to try and find a solution to the problem that appears to be being made by the council itself. Mr. Mayor, according to our report given to the council in November 2022, the usage of that bus was 50%, or about 130 passengers. If we put those into cars at a occupancy rate of about 27%, I had to look that one up, that would bring an extra 100 cars onto our road. So we seem to be hammering on a theme here today about more cars on the road. Buses are designed to reduce the number of cars on the road. So ideally, I think we're in agreement on this, Mr. Mayor. Hopefully the state government will provide a solution to this area without public transport, and I hope I have your support in passing this motion to request that.
Councillor, I'll speak against the motion. In fact, I will put a foreshadowed motion forward, which I have submitted. The motion reads that Strathfield Council, in order to better support better community engagement, wrong motion. That Strathfield Council, 1, acknowledges the work of Mr. Manav Bhatt, a local resident who's with us this evening, in gathering over 500 supporters of his petition, which I was very happy to sign, asking the state government for a bus route along Parramatta Road connecting almost 2.7 kilometres of unserviced roads, including areas around Homebush West and Homebush, and to Strathfield. 2, that the State Minister's mandated response at the time was both inadequate and completely unsympathetic to the needs of our poorly serviced residents, particularly in Homebush and Homebush West. 3, requests that the Minister for Transport properly and fairly address this issue. And 4, that the Council condemns the cost shifting of public transport services onto Council by this state government. Do I have a seconder for the, thank you, Councillor Reddy? It's all right, I'll just make sure that it's correct. Let me just bear with me. I'm just going to, for the sake of having it on correctly on the record, we're going to have a brief adjournment, councillors.
We adjourn too much.
I love the gavel.
What, like, we're all still here. What's the point of adjourning?
Are we on?
Yeah, we're still on. I just don't like.
I do. All right. All right. Councillors, I declare the meeting open. Time being 7:20. Now, councillors, we'll move into speaking for or against this amendment, the initial motion.
Yeah.
Councillor Nosworthy,
No, I thought
would
you
you
were...
like to speak to your motion?
No, I respect it.
Spoke to it. Seconder was Councillor Pensabene. Would you like to speak to the motion?
No, it's all straight.
No. Councillors, would anyone like to speak against the motion? I will. I believe the motion doesn't tell the full story and falls short of what should be outlined in terms of the community efforts that were put against the state government to ensure they provided a service, and obviously they were very happy to ignore our community. That's okay. Well, the council won't take cost shifting, and the state government will have to intervene even if we force their hands. Another speaker against?
Sorry, Mr. Mayor, I don't know if it's time's up to move a slight amendment. Motion.
On the foreshadowed motion?
Yes.
I believe the time is up, councillor.
Oh, apologies. I did think it was appropriate the Mayor sent out a letter to the residents in Corrali Avenue and surrounding streets.
Thank you, councillor. So we'll move to the voting for or against the motion. All those for the motion, please raise your... This is the initial motion to clarify by councillor Nosworthy, not the foreshadowed motion I've put forward. For councillor Nosworthy's motion, can all those in favour please raise your hand? Councillors Nosworthy, Pensabene and Blackmore. All those against, please raise your hand. Councillors Kim, Reddy, Kai and Bellardi. The motion is not carried. The motion falls and we consider the foreshadowed motion. I've said what I'd like to say about it. Would anyone like to contribute further, speak for or against? Councillor Nosworthy.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, again referring to your comments on social media, accusing me of political point scoring, and you've now passed a motion directly, I would say, with a negative bent towards the state government. My goal of the original motion was to work with the state government to find a suitable solution for the thousands of residents who live on Corrali Avenue, and unfortunately I feel like this is unnecessarily partisan when we are just trying to find a solution to a transport problem.
Thank you, councillor. Councillor Pensabene.
Yes, and I can reassure council that state government hasn't dropped on this and that they are still working on it. I have reassurance from our state member, Jason Yatsen-Lee, that the Transport Minister is actually looking at something in this area. So we are not failing.
Thank you, councillor. I'll just speak again in favour. Before councillor Reddy, I'll move to you. I'd like to say that, councillors, you'll speak when addressed. Thank you. Councillor Pensabene, that's just a warning.
Point of order, Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Nosworthy, councillor Nosworthy.
I was of the understanding when you moved the foreshadowed motion that you had passed on your opportunity to speak. I think you said something to the words of, I've said all I need to say on the motion.
And I'll continue to speak on it. Thank you, councillor. Myself, just on what I was saying, the councillors speaking who've spoken for this have obviously shown that they're not paying enough attention to the community to have realised that the state government has already written to us about this matter, saying that no problem to see here. You have services along Parramatta Road that facilitate perfectly the issues you're having. The State Minister was very clear in her writing that there is no issue here and that this area is very well served by state government services. So the fantasy that's being spoken about over there is hilarious to me, considering the councils have obviously not been in touch with what our great community member, Manav or MJ Butt, has been doing, and the disgraceful responses that the Transport Minister wrote back to him. Councillor Reddy.
I would like to acknowledge the chair that I was one of the petitioners to sign Manav's petition, and this is not a blame game. This is not state versus party versus or political. Let's not make it political. We are councillors. We are here only to serve the residents, and we have limited jurisdiction, and we cannot observe any extra additional cost. If the state government is already onto it, if they are watching today's meeting, I would like them to take better actions, maybe make us a little bit fast forward and take action. That's all. Do not take this in any other way.
Thank you, councillor. I'll now put the motion to a vote. All those in favour, please raise your hand. Councillors Blackmore, Kim, Reddy, Kai and Bellardi. All those against. Councillors Pensabene and Nosworthy. I declare the motion carried. Thank you, councillors. Now to motion 10.6. Just going back, councillors, I believe we...
Yeah, it lapsed, didn't it?
Yep.
Yeah, no, there was no seconder, I believe.
Oh, that's right, sorry, thank you. Councillors, we'll move to 10.9, drawn out by Councillor Nosworthy, I believe. Councillor Nosworthy, having you've moved this motion, would you like to speak? Was there a seconder for this motion? Councillor Pensabene, would you like to speak for it, Councillor?
Yes, Mr Mayor, I raised this motion, or I submitted this motion, I should say, just for concern about the accessibility of our buildings. Obviously, there was a decision in the previous council to not further the investment in a accessibility lift in this building. I'm concerned as a...
Councillor, point of order from Councillor Blackmore.
Just a point of order, just through the chair. We did actually, point of order, we did actually fund that lift in the last...
Thank you, we'll take that as a comment. Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Nosworthy?
Thank you for your point of order, but the importance of the report stands in terms of making sure our buildings are accessible to all of our residents in light of various disabilities and other issues with mobility in our community.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Reddy, speaking.
For?
Councillor Reddy?
I would like to appreciate Councillor Nosworthy for putting it up. It is really beneficial to have a report to know what we serve to our residents, and every residents have a right to access, should have the right and access to use any of the facilities. So I'll be voting for it.
Thank you, Councillor. Further, Councillor speaking for or against? Would anyone like to speak against the motion? No. That being the case, Councillor Pensabene?
Okay.
Speaking for or against? For. Would you like to speak?
Only the fact that I'm actually currently disabled and having to get into that lift is like a very scary thing. And I was just really disappointed at the last meeting when we took off funding to actually replace the lift.
Councillor, just a point of order. That's an untruthful statement to the floor. Continue.
Well, that was my understanding in the minutes.
Thank you. I'll put the motion to a Councillor. Councillor Blackmore.
Just a question through the chair to Councillor Kai. When Councillor Pensabene noted that she's disabled, and you
Somewhat
laughed.
disabled.
Why did you laugh at that point? I believe that I actually find that very disrespectful. I think you should apologise.
Oh.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Kai would like to speak.
To the chair, I'm not laughing of she's disabled. She says she's, disabled with these matters. I don't have personal attack. Thank you.
Thank you, councillors.
I'm somewhat disabled at this moment.
I'll note this is already a motion that was drawn out by the mover and no one's disagreed on the point so far. So let's just move on and vote on the matter.
The funding's going in.
I'll ask a question to the director. I'll ask a question to the director to clarify on the point of Councillor Pensabene's.
Through you, Mr Mayor. So at the last meeting, through the accommodation on the premises that we're currently standing, money was left in to address the lift in this building.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Now I'll put the motion to the vote. All those in favour, please raise your hand. Carry unanimously. Thank you. So, councillors, we now move to CCS 7. And bear with me.
CCS 6. CCS 7, sorry.
Okay, councillors, we have an officer recommendation for this report. Does anyone want to move that recommendation as a motion in relation to this report? I'll move it, I will move an amended version. Would anyone like to, and that will be as follows. The amended motion is, just quickly before I choose to adjourn, that the officer have access to the amended version. Sorry. Okay. We'll just wait a moment to clarify that.
I'm in a bit of pain. Eh?
Cheap seats.
I'll begin reading as it's sorted out. The Strathfield Council, in order to support better community engagement, provides the Mayor with a new council-branded portable gazebo no larger than 2 metres by 2 metres for the Mayor to possess and erect with their own volunteers at different locations on the second Saturday of each month. 2, a member of staff will attend them with the Mayor for each of these 12 annually to act as a support and minute taker, and will be provided as a support and minute taker, full stop. That the weekly e-news and monthly newsletter includes reminders and information relating to the time and place of each month's Mayor Street meetings. Thank you. And that funding for this program is drawn from option 2 in the funding table of the report. Thank you, as reflected on the screen. Councillors, do I have a seconder for the amended motion? Councillor Reddy. Would anyone like to speak for or against the motion? Councillor Nosworthy.
First, just a question, if I may, through the chair. Just to confirm that $500,000 was taken out of the road resheeting program in our previous meeting, with the chair to the general manager.
Through the chair, I believe it was $400,000.
Thank you, Councillor. I'll just have a point of order. Councillor, the relevance as per section 2 of
I'm coming to that.
Thank you, Councillor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I will apologise in advance. My calculations are based on the number I stated, not the director. My understanding, the budget of this is about $22,000.
Councillor, point of order. The amended motion provides for a significantly reduced cost associated, as I believe the initial reported cost was unfair to council considering the changes we are trying to make to save on costs. So that is being reduced and I believe will be reflected or was meant to be reflected, but is not.
I'm not sure of the number that...
Just a question?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, so the adjusted costs, which we can reflect in the, if you go ahead with the amendment, the one-off cost plus the cost of the remainder for the 24-25 financial year will be $9,000 with an ongoing annual cost of $12,000.
And that will be reflected in the amended motion. Thank you, Councillor. And I'll also remind councillors that this is a formalisation of what was done in the past with a budget allocated rather than willy-nilly funds being taken. Councillor Nosworthy, your time is still ongoing, if you would like.
So, with the changing in various numbers, I do still note that the interest cost on the now cancelled road resheeting is about $20,000, down from 25 as my original estimate. The cost of this mayoral minute and your street stalls is $12,000, so it appears to me you're communicating to the community that it's more important that you host street stalls at cost to the ratepayer rather than repair the roads, repair the potholes, which in my opinion would be a much larger issue amongst the ratepayers rather than being able to access you with a minute-taking member of the council staff.
Thank you, Councillor. Any further councillors wishing to speak for or against? Councillor Pensabene.
Yeah, against the motion. Just through the chair to the director, I don't know which director, maybe the general manager. When was the last time a mayor has asked for funding for this type of thing? Formal funding, because that's what you're doing. You're asking for formal funding. When was the last time? I've been in this council since 2012 and I've seen 5 different mayors, 4 or 5 different mayors, and not one, they do street stalls by themselves, and not one has to have a gazebo because we all stand under a tree to get shade, and we have someone that takes down the notes. So through the chair to the general manager, do you know the last, or whether the chair could give me an answer?
I could give the answer. Actually, Councillor Pensabene, before you knew me intimately, I visited you at a street meeting, and you had a member of staff with you at the time.
Yes,
and you had council branding with you, which is what I'm asking for. And I believe there was more than one staff member at the time. And I believe when you were the mayor, we also spent a lot of money on paintings as well for private purposes in council meetings. So my point being that council's expenditure is
our budget, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor. Point of order taken. Thank you, Councillor. The question to the General Manager, if you would like it continued, Councillor Pensabene.
He doesn't know.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. I don't recall there being a formal budget established in the past. I think before I started, there had been a process of some of the staff attending and being paid on overtime, but that funding hadn't been formalised. There is a need, given the rigour now that we do have in our budget process, that if this is to continue, we do need to have a formalised budget, because the staff would be attending on Saturdays under the award on casual rates. So we do need to make sure we establish a budget.
Thank you, Jam. You do, councillor?
Yes, and I'd also like to say that if you're doing street meetings once a month and you're out in the community during the week and you're going to all the functions that you go to, which is great, I think it's wonderful, why do you need an advisory?
Is that a question to the chair or a comment? Well, to answer your question, although I could bring it up for a point of order on relevance, to this motion.
It is relevant because it's communication with the community, Chair.
If you're asking about the purpose of the advisory committee, advisory group, it's an opportunity to give a voice to unelected members of the community who would like to advise the mayor on various matters. I have plenty of people, as you would know, plenty of people who speak to me at irregular times, who call me at, all times of the day to make suggestions, ask questions, and I'd like to simply invite them to speak at a more regular time. I mean, I also would like to know this is not relevant to what we're debating here, but I would like them to have a more formalised time to speak with me, rather than and bring their questions, comments, queries and concerns to those group sessions, rather than communicating with me at odd times, and to formalise a sort of relationship between them and the mayoralty. And whoever the mayor might be, that will give them the opportunity to dictate as such. Thank you, councillor. Time's expired. Councillor Reddy.
I would like to speak for the motion. Before our new direction started and the news started and everything came up, there were things used to get done without being noted, without being a record. We ask for it and they get it done, and there was no record for it, and it kept going for a while. That's why we chose to go in a new direction and bring a new GM and everything restructured to go in a right path. At least I'll appreciate the mayor. He's coming up, though he's taking the blame of spending some money, but he's being transparent. He's being accountable and he's telling it. I need this, I'm taking it, where I'm taking it. Every single dollar is accounted for. So rather than picking on why you are spending money, you're spending something clearly and it's open to the whole of community. I really appreciate and I support this motion, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, councillor. There being two people who have spoken for and against, I'll put the motion to the vote.
He hasn't spoken.
There have been two in favour, two against. I'll put the motion to the vote. Those in favour of the motion as amended, please raise your hands. Councillor Kim, Reddy, Kai and Bellardi. Those against, Councillor Blackmore, Pensabene and Nosworthy. Declare the motion carried.
I would have voted for it.
Now moving to PE2. PE2. Councillors, we have an officer recommendation for this report. PE2, councillor. I remind councillors to continue to listen to the chair. Councillors, we have an officer recommendation for this report. Does anyone want to move that recommendation as a motion in relation to this report? Can I have a mover?
One moment, Mr. Mayor.
Can I have a mover?
Yeah.
I'll move the motion, councillors. Is there a seconder?
It's all right.
Seconder, Councillor Reddy. Okay, to speak for the motion, I waive my rights. Councillor Reddy, speak for the motion. No. Would anyone like to speak for or against the motion, councillors? This is PE2 for those still looking. No? Councillor Nosworthy.
Just a question, the officer's report is on which page on our?
Excellent question, councillor.
103.
Page 99.
99, yeah. Oh, I see.
Councillors, there being no speakers for or against the motion, Councillor Reddy?
I've received quite a lot of emails in the last 2 weeks, and I do support the bike lanes, but there is probably more consultation, or there is a lot of, nobody really came up to me saying, can you support my bike lane? But there has been a lot of people who came and said, we don't want it, you need to come and listen to us, we have our own issues, it's not going to solve a lot of, you sitting somewhere else, it's unfair for you to decide on this. So at the moment, because I got a lot of negative feedback, so I'm going to step back and vote against it.
Councillor Blackmore?
Look, I will be voting against this, and I want to just also make something clear. I was against this at the beginning. I've been against these bike lanes for removing the parking for a long time. Fellow councillors said, let's, use council staff's time and let's put on an exhibition and see what happens, when ideologically they never supported it. So, I put it out there that I've been upfront about that from the election as well, put it out as in the media. So I won't be supporting it. I don't believe it's the right outcome for our community. I don't think bike lanes are going to solve the problem of the issues with the parking issues, and also the fact that you provide these bike lanes, all of a sudden no one's going to drive. I don't think elderly people, people with babies, or disabled people really, it's not probably the first choice of public transport. But yeah, to put it out there, this has been boiling behind the scenes, that it should be voted down and should just be done, and it should have been killed at the start if we weren't going to support it. And I think we've got to learn from this and give our staff very clear direction if we don't want to support something.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillors speaking for or against. Councillor Nosworthy?
I'd like to speak for the motion, Mr Mayor. I'd just like to note Councillor Blackmore's assertion about elderly people. It is quite common in other areas with bike lanes for elderly residents to use their mobility scooter on a bike lane. Again, this goes back to previous comments I made earlier in tonight's meeting about providing alternate transport options. The best way to avoid congestion is to have less cars on the road. The best way to have less cars on the road is to provide other options for transport. This is an option for transport that connects our public transport network that is already heavily used. I was doing a street stall on the Crescent recently, and in the 45 minutes there was 4 or 5 bikes using that street already. All we're doing is making it safer. All we're doing is providing them an exclusive area to ride those bikes on. These also include electric scooters of the type that are potentially illegal. But the usage of that street is already there. There's a clear desire to be taking active transport from areas in Flemington, West Homebush, Homebush West, Homebush into Strathfield to get on a express train to the east or to the west. So I'll be voting for this motion because I believe it provides another transport option that isn't adding to congestion with more cars on the road.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Pensabene?
I'll be voting for this motion because it's futuristic. We're thinking about the future. We're not thinking about today or tomorrow. We're thinking about where this place is going to be in 10 years' time. And having a bike lane and having bike facilities and having spaces for elderly to use their scooter bikes, I think is a very safe way of doing it. And for children going to school, it's a safer way than having them drive on the road. And parents don't allow their children to ride bikes to school anymore because it's just too dangerous to cross the road. So to have these bike lanes, there may be a reduction. We don't know if it's going to happen or not. It's only going to help if we offer it to them for an alternative way to get to school, the station. And again, we've got to think about the future. People may want to just drive bikes. People may not want cars, and it's better for the environment. Thank you very much.
Councillor, I have a question to the officer, if possible. There's been a few mentions tonight relating to mobility scooters, the sort of heavy four-wheeled vehicles. Are they appropriate to use on what's being drafted? the Director.
Chair, I'm not aware of any limitations to people using scooters on active transport routes.
Thank you. I'll also comment on this. I'm not and have not been philosophically opposed to bike lanes, nor am I opposed to, reducing cars from the street. However, as elected councillors, it's our duty to listen to community concerns, and despite trying my best to work with both community and staff to ensure that various interests and concerns were addressed in what's been drafted, it is my view that the current report doesn't quite meet what's been asked from the community and address some of those issues. And I also would just like to acknowledge the council staff for the incredible work they have done in putting this all together, and the lengths they've gone to ensure that those community concerns are addressed. But I do feel on this occasion they haven't come to the same conclusion the community has on this matter, and that's why I'll be voting against. That being the case, I'll put the motion to the vote. All those in favour, please raise your hands. Councillors Pensabene and Nosworthy and Kai. All those against, please raise your hands. Councillors Reddy, Kim, Bellardi and Blackmore. That being the case, the motion is lost. I declare the motion lost. Now moving on, councillors, to PE. Sorry, hang on. Hang on, everyone's saying different things. We are moving to, PE6. Councillors, we have an officer recommendation for this report, PE6. Does anyone want to move that the recommendation as a motion in relation to this report? I'll move it. Councillor Pensabene, would you like to second it?
Yeah.
Thank you. Councillor, would anyone like to speak for or against this motion? Councillor Nosworthy.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I guess I'm speaking against it. Just a little bit concerned about the effects the new proposal has on Strathfield South. It seems to be a fairly broad stroke inclusion into the medium density housing proposal, and I'm just not sure that has been appropriately consulted with the residents of Strathfield South. So that's something I'd like to see in the future, if possible.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Blackmore.
I do have a slight amendment, Mr. Mayor. So, on point 2, just to add an additional notes there that both sides of Landillo Avenue be included in the large lot area. So that's basically my thing there. And also on point 3, we've got an A and a B, so including corner sites, and I believe we have mentioned for a long time, so just add the words "and properties with a dual street frontage." Just on the bottom, corner sites. And properties with a dual street frontage, if that's acceptable to you, Mr.
Thank you, Councillor. Yeah, that's fine. Councillor Pensabene, do you accept the amended version? Councillor Pensabene?
No, I'm sorry.
You don't accept the amended version?
Yes, I do.
Thank you, councillors.
So,
Would anyone like to?
you said, do I need to speak on it?
That's fine. Councillors, would anyone else like to speak for or against the motion? For or against? That being the case, I'll put the motion to the vote. All those in favour, please raise your hands. Councillors Kim, Reddy, Kai, Bellardi and Blackmore. Those against, Councillors Nosworthy and Pensabene. That being the case, I declare the motion carried. Councillors, we now move to EO2, draft busking policy. Councillors, we have an officer recommendation for this report. Does anyone want to move?
Point of order, I think EO2 is the draft car share policy. But is that taken out?
I believe that's incorrect, councillor. EO3 is the draft car share policy.
Year 3.
The screen is yes, for whatever reason.
I have a different version.
Whichever one you want.
232.
They both got pulled out though.
Yeah, well, that's fine. They're both pulled out, so we have to vote on them anyway. So
deal with the
we'll do the busking first, just because I've opened it. That's fine. I'll move back then. Okay, we'll go to EO2. Well, I'll continue on EO2 then, which is car share policy. Councillors, we have an officer recommendation for this report. Does anyone want to move that recommendation be as a motion in relation to this report? Councillor Reddy, seconded by Councillor Blackmore. Councillor Reddy, would you like to speak for the motion? I do have an amendment. Well, I'll speak for an amendment to the motion. And I amend that the table in the report reflect the following cost alterations.
Could you repeat that, please?
I amend the table in the report reflect the following cost alterations. 1, an annual cost of $3,000. This is a third. This is a third point, sorry, not a replacement. Sorry, I can't see it. I didn't see it right here. That's fine. Just making sure the notes reflect the amendment correctly. Thank you. Okay, an annual cost of $3,000 and an application fee of $1,200. And just to speak to that point, councillors, that brings up the cost of Strathfield's fees along, if you consider the table in the report, along closer to the averages of other councils and closer to the CBD equivalent in Parramatta, which is actually twice as much, significant amount more, I believe it's over 5,000. So the idea is to ensure council is well compensated for what is going to be a rental of council space, if this is to occur, in line with what other councils have done in their costings. Yes, that's correct. Yeah, I agree with that. Councillors, and just a third sub-point there, for the rate to increase with CPI or as deemed appropriate annually by the council.
Oh, yeah.
Car spots are very valuable, Mr. Mayor, thank you.
They are, thank you.
Sorry?
Car spots are very valuable.
Councillors, just to speak to the point of the amended motion I've put forward, I'm just extending the point I've made earlier that this is only fair that, and to echo what Councillor Blackmore's just muttered. Commented, out of order. I'm calling out of order, but what was stated, Councillor, you're about to get another warning.
Yeah, well, how many warnings do I get, Councillor Bellardi?
Councillor Pennsylvania, I believe you're on one warning, and so is Councillor Blackmore. So if you want it to be a competition, we can make it one. I don't know if we have the facilities for a tally.
I'll take story.
Thank you.
Just to confirm.
So councillors, is there anyone who would like to speak for or against the amended motion, or the motion? Councillor Blackmore?
Yeah, look, I am supportive of this policy, and the Mayor has made amendments which I was going to make. The only one that I would say is that I actually don't, the amendment that I would actually like to add is that I actually don't think the car share spots should be allowed in our metered parking areas. If you were happy to accept.
I accept, councillor.
Yeah, a point there, just to say that, just to keep them out of our parking spots that are already metered.
In fact, I can't accept. Councillor Reddy, you've actually moved the motion. You accept, and Councillor Blackmore, you seconded.
Yeah.
So that's
but
fine.
Before exhibition, whatever the policy be amended to reflect that we do not allow them in metered car parking.
Thank you, councillor. I'll just allow that to be reflected in the notes before we vote. Would any other councillors like to speak for or against the motion?
also the average salary.
All right, is it, okay, that being the case, councillors?
Yes, I'm happy.
Okay, confirmed by the mover and seconder. Councillors, that being the case, I move that we vote on this motion. Those in favour, please raise your hand. Councillors, carried unanimously. Now, councillors, I believe the next point is EO 2 or 3. We've got them mixed in different. EO 3, which is busking policy. Okay, councillors, we have an officer recommendation for this report. Would anyone like to move the recommendation as a motion? Councillor Reddy, seconded by Councillor Kim. Councillor Reddy, would you like to speak to the report? The motion as a report?
I would seek, this was Councillor Kim's motion, and I really appreciate the staff for bringing up the report, and I would like to support it, and I would like to seek other councillors' support as well.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Kim, would you like to speak for the motion?
Already have done it.
Thank you, Councillor. That is right. You spoke at a previous meeting on this point. Councillors, anyone for or against this motion? Would like to speak? No? Excellent. That being the case, we put the motion to a vote. Councillors, all... Sorry, Councillor?
Sorry, I'm voting.
That being the case, can councillors all in favour please raise your hands? Carried unanimously. Councillors. Now, I believe that is the last on the matrix. And we will now move into closed session. Councillors. Okay, sorry. All right, before we do that, councillors, does anyone have a matter of urgency that they wish to bring before the meeting? No, that being the case, we'll move into confidential matters. Councillors, we have 3 items on the agenda that are marked as confidential matters that call for them to be considered in closed session. They are EO5, EO6 and EO7. In accordance with Section 10A4 of the Local Government Act and Council's Code of Meeting Practice, I invite members of the public to make representations as to whether or not this part of the meeting should be closed to the public to consider the confidential items. There being no representatives, I move that Council closes the meeting to the public for the reasons as outlined in the reports. Is there a seconder? Councillor Reddy. I ask the public to leave the chamber before we consider the confidential items. And they have all left, I note.
I'm just getting changed, sorry.
Just confirming with the directors and officers that
Exception.
exception, yeah. Let me take out.
We are live.
All right, councillors, the meeting is now, as resolved, back in open session, and I'll confirm what was voted on in closed session with the, for the record. The recommendation was passed unanimously by council that the general manager be granted the delegated authority to undertake all necessary actions to purchase the property as outlined in the delegated authority section of the confidential report EO7 presented on 10 December 2024. Councillor Blackmore, do you have a...
We're back on.
We are? Yep. 2, that upon the successful acquisition of the property, council approves the funding for the purchase of the property as outlined in the financial implication section of this confidential report. Council endorses the classification of the property as operational land under the provisions of the Local Government Act 1993. Council approves to publicly notify its intention to classify the property pursuant to Section 31 of the Local Government Act 1993. And thirdly, that council be provided with a progress update on the purchase of the property at a future meeting. Thank you, councillors. There being no further business on the agenda, I declare the meeting closed.